What is up, everyone, and welcome back to Men vs. Movies, and welcome back, most importantly, to Oscar month. I am Griffin, as always, and of course, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that I'm joined by the, ladies and gentlemen, the Tyler Tompkins. Tyler, say hello to all the people watching.
Hello, once again, it's great to be back yet again, and I've got to be honest, this might end up being my favorite video we've done so far. It's been very fun putting this list together.
Yes, well, you clicked on the video, so obviously, you know, we're talking about the top 5 overlooked performances by the Academy. Now, this isn't necessarily snubs per se, but it's performances that were not even nominated by the Oscars. So in a way, it is a snub. We look at it more as overlooked performances because they weren't even nominated in the first place. So the Academy just naturally overlooked them. That's why we're calling this top 5 overlooked performances. Do you think I said overlooked enough? I think I said it enough. And as always, guys, if you are interested in any of the films that we talk about throughout the course of this video, any of the performances, there will be a link in the description where you can go to check these films out. So it's there for your benefit. All right, Tyler, let's dive into this thing. Do you have any honorable mentions? Because I'm pretty sure we both have a lot.
Dude, I have a lot, and I'm going to try to list them because there's like 6 of them. Personal choice, I know a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with this, but Miles Teller for Whiplash, thought he was excellent. And then I would go Bruce Willis for The Sixth Sense or Unbreakable. I think he's excellent in both of those movies.
You're a big Shyamalan fan, not surprised.
Yep, Naomi Watts for Mulholland Drive, and Uma Thurman for Kill Bill, Paul Giamatti for Sideways, which is just an excellent performance. It almost made my list. And last but not least, Margot Robbie for The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, you're more keen on that one than I am. But she's good. She's great in the movie, I will admit.
Yeah. So those are my honorable mentions.
All right, real quickly, I will let you know what some of my honorable mentions are. I've got Donna Reed for It's a Wonderful Life. She played Mary, of course. So good in that movie. Just as good as Jimmy Stewart. Eli Wallach for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He's arguably the most memorable character from that movie, aside from Clint Eastwood. Guy Pearce for Memento. Jimmy Stewart for Rear Window. Christian Bale for American Psycho. Robert Shaw for Jaws. And the last 2 I have here killed me. Absolutely just gutted me not to put this on the list. I've got John Wayne from The Searchers, one of my favorite Westerns of all time. And lastly, Judy Garland for The Wizard of Oz. She is so good as Dorothy in that movie, and Somewhere Over the Rainbow should have garnered her an Oscar nomination. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, and that's a damn shame. All right, well, now you know our honorable mentions. Let's dive into this list. Tyler, what is your number 5?
Okay, so my number 5 recently happened not too long ago, and that would be John Goodman for 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, Goodman was great in the movie. I'd have to go back and look and see who was nominated that year and see if I could pluck someone out and put him in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand that. I know Mahershala Ali won that year. To me, I mean, yeah, Goodman was just miles better. But I thought Goodman was miles better than Ali, and just I think he should have been the clear-cut winner. And to me, not only do I think it's Goodman's best performance, but I think it's one of the best performances in a supporting role that I've seen in my entire life. I think he's excellent in that movie.
High praise for John Goodman.
But yeah, I mean, obviously there were a lot of things that made 10 Cloverfield Lane work. Dan Trachtenberg, wonderful director. J.J. Abrams being a producer. But really, the movie does not work without John Goodman's performance. I mean, the guy is a psycho. He makes the movie much more suspenseful just because of how crazy his character is, and I doubt any other Cloverfield movie will have a performance as good as Goodman's performance in 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I understand, knowing how you feel about 10 Cloverfield Lane, I'm not surprised. I think John Goodman is incredibly great in the movie. He's excellent. I just don't know. I would, once again, I'd have to go back and look and see who was nominated and see if I could pluck someone out. But yes, John Goodman is great, so worth a place on your list for sure. All right, now it's time for my number 5. And really, my top 5 here, they're all neck and neck. On any given day, any of the people on this list could shift around, but this is kind of where the cards landed for today, and you'll notice a common trend throughout the course of my list. I'm not going to give it to you. You can pick up on it if you want. So coming in at number 5 for me is Cary Grant for North by Northwest. This is my favorite Hitchcock film, bar none. The movie is great, incorporates the great spy elements that you would want in a film like this. The mistaken identity is such a great part of it, and Cary Grant as Roger Thornhill owns the role. His character is so interesting, and Cary Grant draws you in through everything that's going on, and the way he plays off of the instances that are being thrown at him feels so natural. Honest to God, Cary Grant's portrayal is so honest that if you are in a situation like him, it feels like kind of stuff that you would do. So I love that about that. And I have to say it's probably his most iconic role to date, simply because North by Northwest is one of the greatest films in cinematic history. And it was done by the master of suspense himself, Alfred Hitchcock. There's so many great set pieces, so many great moments, and they are all enhanced by a phenomenal performance by Cary Grant. I honestly, I'm saying this, and I can't even believe that he wasn't nominated for North by Northwest. It's just killing me.
Yeah, dude, I mean, we just literally released our top 10 biggest snubs of all time, and we touched on Cary Grant and how he never won an Oscar ever.
I know, and I said the same thing, saying, why was he not nominated for North by Northwest? I mean, you can go look at that video somewhere over here in the corner, but for real, like, he should have been nominated for that film.
Yeah, and it's a shame that he never won for anything, especially North by Northwest, which to me is his best role ever, and that's just one of the best movies of all time.
And the thing I think I loved about it is that it showed that a comedic actor like Grant could shine in a more dramatic role. I mean, there are some nice comedic elements to his character that Grant plays off very naturally. I think my favorite one being when he's driving drunk from the mansion or whatever, when they send him in the car to ultimately die. I think the way Grant plays that is just brilliant, but it showed a different side to Cary Grant. It was like, hey, this guy can do drama, and he can do it really, really well. And unfortunately, he just wasn't awarded with that nomination. All right, Tyler, what is your number 4?
I would talk about my number 4, but I feel like I'm gonna have to wait because I think my number 4 will be on your list, and that is Anthony Perkins in Psycho.
Yes, we will get back to that later on. Wow, really? Number 4. Interesting.
Insane that he did not. He wasn't even nominated. Insane he wasn't nominated. That's all I'll say.
Yes, it's Psycho, some would say.
Yeah,
Psycho that he was not nominated.
Very good.
I guess it's time for my number 4, since we'll get to yours in a little bit. My number 4 is Jack Nicholson for The Shining.
Good call.
Yeah, and honestly, I hope it's on your list. Is it on your list?
It's not, but it's one of many other performances that I wanted to put on my list. I think it's probably Nicholson's best performance to date, or at least my favorite, just because of how crazy he is.
Yeah, it's like in that top 3, man. It's like Chinatown, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and then The Shining. And he was nominated for 2 of them. He won for 1 of them. But my God, I mean, The Shining might be arguably his most iconic role aside from the Joker and Batman. I mean, he's so good. I think the thing that really pushed this film higher on my list, I know 4 is not the highest you can be, but a solid spot on the list, was when you go back and you watch the behind the scenes stuff of him psyching himself up, like getting crazy to, chop down the door. Here's Johnny, all that shit. I can't speak. The transformation that Nicholson's character goes through over the course of this film is insane. I mean, Nicholson loses his mind in this movie, and it's still to this day, throughout all of the roles he's had, it's one that people go back to because they love what he brings to the character. I think if you take Jack Nicholson out of that movie, replace him with some other actor, the movie isn't nearly as good. He makes the film. It's like Kubrick mixed with Jack Nicholson is what gives you this incredible, suspenseful, horrific, in a way, film. And it ends up being one of Stephen King's best adaptations for all of those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said. The only thing that I always bring up is the behind-the-scenes footage of Jack Nicholson pumping himself up, getting all crazy right before he does that iconic scene. That alone, what?
That's all the proof you need that the dude went all in on this role and should have been awarded for something.
Yeah, and I mean, I know some people didn't really like the movie when it first came out, but there's no denying his performance was bad. I mean, his performance was awesome.
Yeah, and that's the thing I will mention. Like you said, the movie was not necessarily received as well as it is today when it initially came out, but I think regardless of the movie in general, his performance just stands the test of time. Like, even if that was a bad movie, I feel like his performance elevates it to another level because he's so electric.
Yeah, I think it's another one of those cases where without Jack Nicholson, I just don't think the movie would be as good and as effective.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have the nice technicality from Kubrick and that inventive storytelling that he pairs with all of his films, but like you said, it's really that performance that brings the film to a whole new level. Tyler, number 3, what do you got?
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell you my number 3 is Jim Carrey.
Yes, I knew he was going to make your list. I was just curious about where the placement would be.
Let me just start off by saying Jim Carrey has been in a lot of movies where I think he's been overlooked. You have Man on the Moon, where he played Andy Kaufman. That was great. Then, of course, you have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which he's...
Yeah, if I were going to pick a Carrey performance to put on this list, it would definitely be that one.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally get that. But the two I want to focus on, I'll tell you which one I really want to focus on, but the two I want to focus on are, one, The Majestic, which is one of the most underrated movies of all time. It was directed by Frank Darabont. And nobody talks about that movie. He's excellent in that movie. But the one where he was overlooked was The Truman Show.
And I think most people would probably agree with you. I mean, it's for most people, I think it's The Truman Show or Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason I say The Truman Show is because, to me, that's the one where I actually think he did deserve a nomination, because that movie was nominated for like everything at the Oscars. Carrey won the Golden Globe for Best Actor for drama, not a comedy, for a drama. So I think his performance was massively overlooked. And this is another case too. I mean, again, a reoccurring theme of where if Carrey's not in that movie, it's just really not as effective.
I completely agree with you. I mean, Jim Carrey is one of those guys that I feel like gets overlooked a lot because of his typical Jim Carrey shtick or his comedic roles. People are like, oh, Jim Carrey, he's wacko, off the wall, zany, hilarious comedic dude. And he is that, but when he needs to be dramatic, he brings it 100%. Like you said, the movies that you mentioned, all his dramatic roles, like that's all the proof you need that Jim Carrey is an actor that transcends the comedic genre. Like he can do more than comedy. And actually, it's interesting because in a lot of his dramatic roles, there's some room for him to throw in a few jokes here and there. Like he plays a very real character in a lot of those films. And I think that's what I like most about it. His performances in his more dramatic roles feel so sincere. So like you said, but the reason that he wasn't nominated for The Truman Show or for Eternal Sunshine is just kind of, it's mind-blowing in a way.
Yeah, and it's funny, the more I think about it as you were talking, I mean, I'm just thinking of his character in Eternal Sunshine, and I almost think, wow, should I have said that instead, because of how good he is in that movie as well. I mean, he's great. He's a great actor, man.
I swayed you. Okay, so number 3 for me, I know we're going to come back to later, and that is Jake Gyllenhaal for Nightcrawler.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that later.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a feeling. All right, moving on.
So my number 2 is, it's the one that makes me the most upset, and that's Jamie Foxx for his performance in Annie.
Oh,
totally joking. Totally joking. We don't talk about Annie, and we don't talk about Annie. But no, I've been looking forward to my number 2 because I'm curious as to if you agree with me on this or not. I don't know if he would have made your list, but I think you can agree with me on the actor. I'm trying to build up the suspense.
The suspense, man. What do you got? You're the master of suspense right now. You're the Hitchcock of YouTube.
I got it, man. Okay, so my number 2 is yet again another comedian being overlooked for his dramatic performance, and that's Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that because I do. I'm with you. I think that's his best performance.
Maybe not. Maybe he shouldn't have won the Oscar, but nominated. He totally should have been nominated for the Oscar.
Well, who else was nominated that year? Just out of curiosity.
Well, that's the year that Adrian Brody won the Oscar, which was already an extremely weird year.
No one's stopping that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very weird year. I know Adrian Brody winning was a huge surprise because there was another guy, I can't remember who it was, but he was winning all of the other stuff before the Oscars, and just kind of like, whoa, Adrian Brody won it. But dude, Sandler absolutely deserved a spot. And I mean, you could also even look at Sandler's performance in another movie called Reign Over Me, where yet again I think he was potentially overlooked because he plays a great part in that role. And these roles, they make me want to see him do more dramatic acting because
I agree with you.
Dude,
I think he
excellent.
succeeds when he is in a dramatic role that has comedic elements. I mean, they're a hell of a lot better than those stupid comedies that he does.
Yeah, I mean, and I do have a soft spot for the comedies. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Sure, no, I do too, depending on the comedy, that is.
Yeah, well, even like the Netflix stuff, even though I'm not like a huge fan of it, I'm definitely watching it the day it comes out. I mean, just because I love Adam Sandler as an actor. Like, he's just, he's fun to watch. But when he does stuff like this, that's one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. Like, you truly are.
You love that one, yeah.
You are
really
a great
good.
actor. Like, he's just a really good actor. And I don't know, man, it's just crazy. He was nominated for the Golden Globe. He didn't win it, but I think Richard Gere beat him actually for Chicago because he was in the comedy musical category.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's just tough not seeing him nominated. I wish he would have just been nominated.
No, I agree with you, and I think Paul Thomas Anderson really did a good job in getting the best possible performance out of him in that film. That's a movie that I absolutely love. You had me watch it for the first time like a couple months back, and I just fell in love with it instantly. The direction, the themes going on, the music, and especially Sandler's performance. It's so good.
Honestly, Punch Drunk Love should have been nominated for like everything, like script, direction, picture, like everything. But unfortunately, it wasn't.
Yeah, for sure. Well, at least score in my mind. If that wasn't nominated for score, it was just wow. Okay, so moving on to my number 2, it's one that you mentioned earlier, and that is Anthony Perkins for Psycho.
Yeah, I mean, even though it's number 4 on my list, I consider all 5 of these just like incredibly overlooked performances. I actually read that he was not nominated because in my mind, I was like, at least he was nominated. Maybe he won. I don't know.
You would think, right? It seems like a no-brainer.
Dude, I cannot believe. I mean, like,
it's
he should have been the number one thing,
man.
Yeah, like he should have been the number one thing nominated for that movie, like the first thing nominated for the movie, like over director. I mean, like. He's so good.
I would disagree with you. I would say the second thing, I would say Hitchcock first for directing because that movie doesn't function without Hitchcock. But like his performance, hands down, number 2 thing that should have been nominated from that film.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but to me, it's just like, yeah, I mean you have the iconic shower scene, and it doesn't work without Hitchcock's direction. But I mean, dude, Norman Bates, one of the most iconic characters of all time, one of the most iconic villains of all time. I mean, they just did a whole show based on the character of Norman Bates called Bates Motel. It's just crazy. He was not nominated.
Well, and he's one of those characters that inspired the slasher genre, truthfully. I mean, well, Psycho as a whole inspired the slasher genre, but Norman Bates is the original slasher. Like, he inspired Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, all of that stuff. Like, without Norman Bates and without Anthony Perkins' portrayal of the character of this guy who's sick and twisted in the head, he's pretending to be his mother and stuff like that, and that shot at the end, without any of that, you don't have the slasher films that succeeded. That's a performance that feels ahead of its time, much like we were talking about with On the Waterfront. Marlon Brando's performance feels very modern, very ahead of its time. I feel like Perkins's performance in Psycho, it feels very modern. It was so unsettling. The looks that he gives to the camera, the mannerisms, that last shot with the creepy smile. I mean, dude, I'm just sitting here like getting chills thinking about it because it's so unsettling. And this is a movie that came out like in the 60s, and for a film to have a performance that is that unsettling, that is that old, it speaks volumes about not only the quality of the film, but the quality of the performance by the main villain.
Yeah, and one other thing too, that actually Cody Leach brought up, who who's a big scary movie fan, is Norman Bates is also a very sympathetic, sympathetic character, which is also very important, man. Very important. I mean, that's just, again, goes to show how great of a job Anthony Perkins did.
Exactly, and that's the thing. The best villains are the ones that you can understand, you can sympathize with them. Norman Bates was a very tortured soul, and as a result, he morphed into this freak of nature and murdered people. Like, he's such a fascinating character on many different levels, and one of the reasons why he's so compelling is because he is sympathetic. He's got a split personality, really. It's brilliant stuff here all around. The fact that he wasn't even nominated is an atrocity, absolute atrocity.
Yeah, I mean, the more we talk about it, again, it's kind of one of those things where I want to move him higher up on my list because...
No, I think he should be number 1 on your list.
I mean, he's just thinking about it. I'm just like, man, he's like, just breaking down his character, what we just did now. I'm like, what in the world? Like, this guy should have won. I mean, at least be nominated. This is crazy. I don't understand.
It's insane. This is bullshit.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, man.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you. I think we brought up all valid points that support our belief that he should have been nominated, if not at least, or if not win.
Video's over. We're done.
Video's over. Then fuck this. It's done. See you later.
We're done.
All right, now we're on to the grand finale, number 1. It's hard to believe that anyone could beat out Anthony Perkins after how we gushed over him, but we both have 2 picks that ended up doing it. So, Tyler, what is your number 1? Share it with the class because we all know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Perkins would, could take over number 1 down the road, but I still...
I think he is, man. I think by just default of that discussion we had, he wins.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's right now I'm still insulted from this, fiasco that happened back in 2014 or 2015. Jake Gyllenhaal not being nominated for Nightcrawler. I mean, he should have won the award for Nightcrawler, but he wasn't even nominated. He was nominated for the Golden Globe, the SAG Award, but he did not get an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean-
that's why he's my number 3, man. For those reasons, like you mentioned, like the dude transforms, like we
Yeah.
were mentioning with Perkins. Like, what the hell?
Dude, and I mean, you could also, if you wanted to, just put Jake Gyllenhaal as number 1, just because he's been overlooked for a lot of performances, man. He's only been nominated for Brokeback Mountain, and there are plenty of other movies where he gives a much better performance than Brokeback Mountain. Even though he's really good in it, he's been better in so many other movies.
I mean, it's really crazy. I mean, Prisoners, Enemy.
Yeah, but I mean, like Prisoners, Nocturnal Animals even. I mean, that's kind of an unpopular choice, but he's really good in that movie. Yeah. And I mean, just looking back at his filmography, I'd say like the past 10 years, it's very hard to put him up against like, I mean, I think he's had like the best past 5 to 7 years than any other actor working in Hollywood right now. I mean, he's on a roll, man.
I would say people don't necessarily look at him like this, but in some instances, I would say he's on par with DiCaprio as far as like the quality of performance that he always gives. He's consistent. He is pretty much a method actor. We don't always look at him as being one, but I think we can consider him one given the performances that he gives, especially in Prisoners and especially in Nightcrawler. The dude has like no humanity in this film. I mean, he is disgusting, and yet at the same time, he's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, my God, like it's the stuff that he does in this movie. His rapport with Rene Russo, that relationship, and how he like uses the system in order to become successful. It's God,
and that last scene with Riz Ahmed, man, like just
oh my God, it's despicable. I mean, the dude is like a lizard in this.
And he's one of my favorite and one of the last greatest anti-heroes we've had. I mean, because even though he's like a despicable character, I don't know if you did, but I mean, I was rooting for him, dude. Like, just because
I was rooting for him because there was no one else I liked in the movie, but he was I was more rooting for him because Gyllenhaal, and also the fact that he's so fascinating, you know?
Yeah, especially in that movie. It's just, that's another performance, man. I'm telling you, many years from now, people are going to look back on that one and go, that is insane. He was not even nominated.
I agree. And I feel like there ends up being so much more depth to him through Gyllenhaal's emotions, through the stuff that he conveys, his mannerisms.
Yes.
I feel like the character on paper, you don't really know a whole lot about him. And even with Gyllenhaal's performance, his backstory isn't really important. That's part of the mystery that surrounds him. But there's that depth there that is... The character is given, it's all in the eyes, man. He's like he's like a deer in the headlights the entire movie.
Yeah, it's just insane to me. It's just another one of those things. I'd say like, you know, out of every single performance on this list, and just absolutely insane. He didn't even win the SAG award or the Golden Globe. I mean, he didn't win anything for this award. He won maybe a couple of small awards, but he should have won a lot more.
I mean, for me personally, that year, I would have said the best performance was Michael Keaton, personally, for Birdman, but Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler is very, very close. Very, very close. All right, so my number 1. What is it? You know, I've said all these great ones. I've praised Anthony Perkins to hell, praised Jake Gyllenhaal. What is my number 1? My number 1 is Jimmy Stewart for Vertigo. Yes, this man who is in some of the most iconic films of all time, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, It's a Wonderful Life, Rear Window, Vertigo, and so forth. Harvey. Jimmy Stewart was an icon, was a titan of his time. And Vertigo is often considered to be in the top 2 for best films ever made. In fact, if you look at the BFI list, which is the British Film Institute, their list for the best films of all time, Vertigo overtook Citizen Kane as number 1. It's one of Hitchcock's masterpieces. It's my second favorite Hitchcock film, actually. And one of the reasons, much like what I mentioned with North by Northwest and Psycho, one of the reasons why the movie is so good is because of Jimmy Stewart's performance. You want to talk about a sympathetic character? This is a man who has gone through trauma. The way that Jimmy Stewart reacts to the Vertigo stuff that is going on, his reactions are what sells this character. And it's a very heartbreaking tale of what this guy goes through. He loses the woman that he loves, and he finds this woman again in someone else. Or is it? I don't know. If you've never seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil it. But then seeing how he falls back in love again, this obsession, all of this stuff is so enriching, and Jimmy Stewart just sells it perfectly. And the reason why he just slightly edged out Perkins is because of the film on the whole, his role in the film. He's the center of the movie. While even though Anthony Perkins is a very huge part of Psycho, Jimmy Stewart is Vertigo. and his reactions, his rapport with Kim Novak, who was also snubbed for this movie, and the tale that he goes through, the madness that he sinks into in certain moments is riveting. It's a riveting performance by Jimmy Stewart. I think it's probably his best. It still boggles my mind that this movie and this performance was not awarded.
Let me tell you something. I cannot wait to watch Vertigo because I've never seen it.
Yeah, I know you have not. You have not seen it, and hopefully I didn't spoil anything for you.
No, but I will be watching it soon. Like I was telling you, it's playing at one of my movie theaters here in about a month, and I'm absolutely going to see it. So I can't wait.
For sure. No, and it's just, one of those movies that stands the test of time. Hitchcock invented that camera technique, the one that was used in Jaws,
the dolly zoom. Dude, that's right, from Vertigo. Yeah.
Exactly. And seeing how Jimmy Stewart kind of plays off that, how he reacts to that, it sells it. It sells the moment. It's a brilliant performance by a brilliant actor. And once again, another film by the master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock. All right, guys, there you have it. Those are our top 5 performances overlooked by the Academy. There's a lot out there, guys. Let's just be honest here. Every year, you could really make a list of 5 people, to be honest. There's just so many good performances given year after year. But in our minds, these are the ones that go down in history as the WTFs of the Academy Awards. Just completely overlooked by the Academy. Just blows my mind that some of this stuff even happened.
Yeah, I mean, like, even though I was telling you in between takes, it was like, oh man, I forgot James McAvoy for Split, who would absolutely make my list probably further down the road. But that means it just goes to show you, these happen all the time.
Yeah, it's, and every year there's going to be at least one of these things that happens. It's just the way it goes. But that's why we make these videos, because these performances are worth mentioning. And because they're worth mentioning, I encourage all of you guys to go check out each of the films we've talked about if you have not seen them. I'm sure most of them you have seen. But if you are interested in any of the films that we have mentioned throughout the course of this video, there is a link down below to our online store, our kit.com store, where we basically just put a list of all the movies that we talk about in the course of our videos in one kit. So if you're interested, definitely check that out. I, once again, encourage you guys to check out these classic films. You should be watching them. And if you haven't seen any of these ones, this is a great opportunity for you to either rent them or buy the Blu-ray.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually told me about Kit, man. It is actually pretty cool.
It's a nifty little tool where everything is in one place.
Yes, very, very, very cool. But yeah, man, thanks again for having me on. This was, like I said, probably my favorite video we've done so far. It's fun talking about overlooked performance. There's so many of them. There's so many of them.
For real. And I think, honestly, God, after this discussion, Anthony Perkins should just skyrocket to the top of both of our lists.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it right now. I'm like, man, we should probably redo this video.
We should. I think we got enough time. You ready to restart the video?
Yeah.
Thanks, Tyler, as always, for coming on and doing this video. Really, really appreciate it. Where can everyone find you on the internet?
Yeah, just search my name on YouTube, Tyler Tompkins. I should be the first one that pops up. And same thing for social media, Twitter, Instagram, should be the first or second person to pop up.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Well, you know the spiel. If you like this video, be sure to like it, share with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more movie reviews and more Oscar month. Yes, we're not done yet. You can also like Men vs. Movies on Facebook and follow us on Twitter simply by searching Men v Movies. And lastly, guys, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can always give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right. That'll do it for this video, guys. And until next time, take care.